Welcome to War Thunder with Subdued. How y'all doing today? Well, patches are soon to be coming. They've done some updates. The Eagle can carry up to 8 AIM 120s. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, I also ran across an article recently about the technological advancements and sophistication of the AIM 7, the Sparrow. And honestly, the Sparrow is a very technologically advanced weapon. But in War Thunder, it is I would call it a secondary weapon to the heat-seeking missiles. And the reason is because of the need to maintain a radar lock. Now, when players are flying low to the ground, they have a tendency to be able to break or lose that lock. Sometimes you're not even able to pick them up on radar. So that's where the meta currently is. The problem is jets at low altitude have a tendency to really drink fuel at a prestigious rate. Probably the best example, where is it? I don't have it out. Choose a plane. There we go. The Hunter. The Hunter has 13 minutes of fuel at a full tank. However, if you take it up to altitude, let's say 20,000 feet and above, that fuel lasts a long time at the same throttle setting. So down close to the ground, you got 13 minutes. Up at altitude, you end up with a considerably longer flight. Now, this is a plane without an afterburner. Afterburners kind of throw the whole thing out of whack. But you have to remember, most planes didn't use afterburner all the time. Matter of fact, I don't think any of them used afterburner all the time. Afterburner was to go into combat when you needed as much power in your bird as possible. But when you're doing that at high altitude, you've already lowered your fuel consumption, and then you picked it up again with the afterburner. But that's where the maps that we're dealing with are the problem. Larger maps requiring pilots to climb to an altitude that's reasonable. Anything above 20,000 feet should be reasonable. When I'm flying this plane, my first goal coming off the runway is to climb to a very, very high altitude. Now, for most battles, that's 20,000 feet and above. Usually about 25,000 feet. Nobody's up there, or very few are up there. And those that are probably some of the better pilots. Now, yeah, you can stay down low and duck and weave and twist and turn and get away with doing your job, sorta. But jets firing missiles, especially the AIM 7s, which are, well, at this level, the AIM 7C, it's a terrible short range missile. Now I know it says something about being long range. 12 kilometers, launch range 25 kilometers, maximum speed Mach 3. Actually, it's supposed to be Mach 4, but I'll get what I can get. It's um, it's not a great weapon. It's slightly better than the AIM 9B in its maneuvering capacity, and definitely better in its range, especially seeing as how it's all aspect. But that is because it requires a radar lock. At low altitude, it's just dead weight on the plane. So it isn't even worthwhile to take it as a weapon at low altitude. Now, the nice thing about a lot of planes, like the ones that I fly, they have a large fuel capacity. So the 30-minute battles at low altitude aren't that bad. But if they were on much larger maps at high altitude, it would be much better. Low altitude really isn't that fun. Yes, you can yank and you can crank and you can go as fast as you can go, and yeah. I'd like to be able to use all the weapons available. And the Sparrows, the AIM 7s, all of them, are best at high altitude. And like I said, most of the radars, the early radars, let's just go down here. The F4C, the F4E, they haven't got that great a radar. The F8E, because it's firing the AIM 9Cs, again, not that great of a radar. Now we don't have the F4B, but we do have the F4J and the F4, where is it? F4S. They have slightly improved radars, so they're actually able to maintain locks at lower altitude. It's when you get up into the rank 8 aircraft, the F-16s, the F-15, the F-14s, even the F-20, they're able to maintain a radar lock at lower altitude. But with the AMRAAMs, all you need is a track while scan lock. And you can ripple fire a bunch of different missiles quickly. And with the F-15C, you're going to be able to carry 8. My God, that's a lot of missiles to use against targets. And the fact that they go pit bull at 10 miles or 10 kilometers, I'm not sure which. And if you don't know what pit bull is, that means the radar seeker comes on and it starts looking for its target. The same thing happens with the AIM-54 Phoenix missiles, although their maneuverability is somewhat less. But the AIM-7 Sparrows, all of them, require you maintain a radar lock. Now, the AIM-7M does have a bit of internal guidance or inertial guidance. Um, it goes to the last figured point if it loses lock just before impact. And all of the Sparrow missiles have a proximity warhead. They are not detonate on contact, they are detonate in proximity. So they should be useful, but again, it requires that Gaijin create large enough maps that everyone that can use a semi-active radar homing missile can fire them at a range. Now again, let's go back to the F-8E. All right, the AIM-9C has a lock range of 9 kilometers and a launch range of 18 kilometers. So that means at roughly 7.5, 8 miles, you can get a lock and the missile will travel to the target relatively quickly. And it's got decent maneuverability at 18G. And that is probably the shortest range SARH missile in the game. So if Gaijin will do us the honor of actually making maps that are large enough to force players to altitude to fight so that they don't run out of gas, that would be good. Because like I said, at low altitude you have maximum fuel burning. At high altitude, your fuel consumption drops considerably. I've gotten anywhere between a half hour and 45 minutes of flight time out of the Hawker Hunter at altitude. And that's at full throttle. The thing is, you have to climb. And failure to climb means you're going to go through your gas quickly. Jet fuel goes away fast, especially if you've got an afterburner. Even the old afterburners, like on the F3H2 and the F4D1, go through tremendous amounts of gas. And it only gets worse when you get into planes like the F100, the F8U, the F8E, the F11F, the F4 Phantoms. I mean, they're just absolutely astonishing how fast they can go through gas. Then you got the F14. That thing just, it's like open up the top of a 55-gallon drum and just tip it over, because that's how fast you're going through gas. So if Gaijin will do us the favor of making larger maps so that we can actually force players to go to altitude before they can engage. What happens afterwards? I mean, yeah, swirling dogfight, descending to the ground, wonderful. If you get into gun range. Otherwise, SARH missiles have value when they can be shot at distance. And the only way they can be shot at distance is if you can maintain a radar lock. Yes, chaff, flares, maneuvering, those are all valid to throw off a lock. But to do that, you've got to have altitude. And currently, because the maps are so small and the placement of the pilots is so short a range, it's very difficult to have a need for SARH missiles. Heat seekers are all that's necessary. That changes a lot with the active radar homing missiles, but it doesn't change that much. All right, this Subdude signing out. Y'all have a pleasant day, a better tomorrow. We'll catch you in the sky in air realistic on the good maps, of which there are still too darn few. Subdude. Out!